Getting around town? Know how to say it like a local. When it comes to transportation, the English language has its own set of rules. Let's dive into some essential idioms that will keep you sounding like a native. Starting with cars. To enter a car, we say to get in. It's as simple as opening the door and sliding into the driver's seat, even if, as mentioned, the door on the other side might be a bit tricky. For example, it's easiest to get in the car from the driver's side. However, for all other forms of transportation like buses and trains, we switch gears and use to get on. Picture this, hopping onto a bus at your local stop. I always get on the bus to work at 34th Street illustrates how seamlessly you can integrate this idiom into everyday conversation. Now, exiting vehicles has its own terminology. To leave a car, we say, to get out of. Why not take a break and get out of the car for a while? Conversely, when leaving any other transportation, such as a train, it's to get off. Helen, for instance, got off the train at the 42nd Street terminal. Remember, whether you're getting in a car or getting on a bus, using the right idiom can make all the difference. Let's dress up your language with some clothing idioms. When it comes to expressing ourselves, sometimes it's all about how we dress up our words. Take the idiom to put on, for instance. It's a simple phrase that means to place clothing on oneself. For example, if you're stepping out into a chilly morning, you might say, Mary put on her coat and left the room. It's straightforward and paints a clear picture of Mary getting ready to face the cold. On the flip side, we have to take off. This idiom means to remove clothing from oneself. Let's say you enter a warm, cozy room after being out in the snow. You might use it like this. John took off his jacket as he entered the office. It implies not just the action of removing the jacket, but also a shift from the cold outside to the warmth inside. Next time you're getting ready, think about how you can use these idioms to describe what you're doing. Now let's switch things up with some idioms for everyday utilities and urgent situations. When you want to start an appliance or light, you might use the idiom to turn on. Similarly, when you're done, you would use to turn off. These are not just limited to lights. For instance, you might say, could you please turn on the heater? It's chilly in here. Or, remember to turn off the stove after cooking. But what about when you need something done immediately? That's where right away comes into play. If your boss needs a report as soon as possible, they might say, I need this completed right away. This idiom is synonymous with immediately or at once. For example, in a medical emergency, you might hear, we need a doctor right away. Using these idioms correctly can really illuminate your English and add a sense of urgency when needed. To wrap up, here are some idioms that you'll pick up sooner or later. Starting with to pick up. This idiom literally means to lift something from a lower position. For instance, you might hear someone say, could you pick up those books from the floor? But it also has a figurative meaning of acquiring new skills or information effortlessly. Imagine a friend saying, she picked up French so quickly on her trip to Paris. Moving on to sooner or later, this phrase suggests that something is inevitable, regardless of how much time passes. A common usage might be, sooner or later, you'll have to decide what you want to study. Next, to get up often refers to rising from bed after sleeping. For example, every morning I get up at 6 to go for a run. However, it can also mean to make someone else wake up, as in, tomorrow we need to get the kids up early for school. Lastly, at first is used to describe initial impressions or early stages. Someone might recount, at first I didn't like sushi, but now I love it. Incorporate these into your daily English, and you'll be sounding like a native in no time. That's a wrap on today's lesson on essential idioms. We've navigated through the language of transportation, learning how to get in and out of cars, and how to board other forms of transport. We dressed up our vocabulary with idioms about putting on and taking off clothing. We switched on our understanding of utilities and lit up expressions of urgency. Remember, the key to mastering these phrases is regular practice. Keep practicing these idioms, and watch how your English fluency grows. Catch you in the next lesson.